Alright YouTube, it's time for a little bit of an update here. First and foremost, along with the webcam, I know I put this in the title of the last video, but I didn't actually mention it because I bought it after I had made the video and uploaded it. New microphone will also be coming. This U1 is fine for speaking, but some people tell me the audio quality is not all that. I can understand. I wanted something a few tiers above what I've been using. Also, I've seen reviews of it, and I should be able to play my keyboard into it. It should perfectly capture the sound. It's adjustable. It's going to be wonderful compared to what I'm using now. So the audio quality of my videos will increase in the near future. I also bought a few other things, but I'll keep those a secret so that in my first video I can show those off. Anyway, it's time to talk about the Republican convention. So far it has been chaotic, but it has been more calm than I think a lot of people expected. If you listen to people before, a lot of them thought that it was going to devolve into anarchy because there are tens of thousands of protesters and Republicans and all these people open carrying, and the Black Panthers are there, and a bunch of bikers are there, and they brought in a bunch of outside police forces. Now, I didn't predict that it was going to be quite that bad. It's about what I expect, honestly. There's a little bit of struggle outside. We saw, of course, Alex Jones get attacked by some communists. It was funny because they were calling him a Nazi because he was decrying communism, I guess. I thought that was pretty funny. He's not a Nazi or a fascist or anything. He's just a corporate shill. That's what Alex Jones is. He makes a lot of money doing what he does. He's an actor. More power to him, I guess, for bilking small minds out of money for supposedly special iodine. It's rather amusing to me. But I think more concerning really are people like Rudy Giuliani and Ben Carson. Of course, Rudy is seen as America's mayor for no reason other than he was in office when 9/11 happened, which is not necessarily anything to brag about. And he uses this as a continuous fixture of every policy he suggests, every speech he makes. He's obsessed with the concept. I think 9/11 was quite some time ago. I think it's time to give up that sad, tired line, especially when you consider the 28 pages that were just released in redacted form. There's a reason that I haven't really covered it. The 28 pages are still redacted, so they're largely useless. We're not getting the names we need or the nations we need necessarily. Now, we do know that the Saudis did 9/11, okay? They coordinated it, they funded it, it was their problem. They were probably working with Mossad as well as other foreign clientele at the time. Probably were working with corporatists in the U.S., with arms dealers. I think the FBI, the CIA, the Bush White House, they got caught with their pants down. Then Netanyahu came in. This is why I stress there was probably Israeli involvement here too, to say, oh, well, you should attack Saddam because he's harboring Al-Qaeda or something, which was never true to begin with. He's got weapons of mass destruction. He's aiding terrorists. He's going to give them nuclear weapons or whatever. So it sort of falls apart at that point. But yes, we know that the Saudis were directly involved now. I've said that for years. I knew it was the case. It didn't take a genius to figure out who primarily was responsible for 9/11. And I keep getting shills, by the way, ranting about nanothermite and Mossad and stuff. I will say there was Israeli involvement somewhere along the line. The Saudis don't do anything without Netanyahu okaying it. So you can take that as it is. Then they have Ben Carson come up there and rant about Jesus. Now, I know that Ben Carson is like likable, sleepy doctor, but he's also a dangerous religious zealot. He's akin to, like, imagine when Obama talks about moderate Muslims, and they still believe in Sharia law, and they still think that gay people should be, like, beaten, if not killed. That's sort of the equivalent of what people like Ben Carson are. They're not saying that everybody has to worship Christ or get chopped up in the guillotine or something like that, but they are saying, well, it's going to be Jesus First Nation time, and if you're not a Christian, maybe you shouldn't be able to do this or that, or there's something wrong with you, you're just an evil atheistic heretic or something. So Ben Carson is pretty funny to me. I never considered him likable to my standards. I can understand why some people within the Republican Party do. It's like Rudy Giuliani. I may not like him, but I can understand why he plays it up to sort of the centrist core of the Republican Party. I think the highlight, of course, is Trump himself. I also find it very funny. This is something that isn't of concern. Melania Trump supposedly plagiarizing Michelle Obama. Michelle Obama, Barack Obama, Joe Biden, Hillary Clinton, the Bushes, you name a politician who has made a number of major speeches, there will be plagiarized segments of some of those speeches. It will happen, because the speechwriters will recycle material. You think Melania Trump actually thought up the speech herself? The bigger news is, hey, Melania Trump lied about the fact that she made the speech herself. No, she didn't. A speechwriter made it. But that being said, I don't hold her to fault for supposedly plagiarizing when all of these other people do the same thing. It doesn't really matter. It's a non-issue at the end of the day. Now we look forward to the Democratic convention. What's that going to be? It's going to be a snooze fest. Name some popular nonpartisan Democrats that can really unite the hemorrhaged bits of their party and get them back on board. Oh, well, wait, there are none. They can drag out Obama up there. He'll be the only person speaking that will even be coherent. Who else is she going to turn to? Hillary, I mean. John Kerry, oh, yeah, he's known for making his wonderful speeches. There's nothing boring about him. Nancy Pelosi, Harry Reid, Elizabeth Warren, all of these people are way further left than Hillary, and they're seen as hyper-partisan. Not good for getting the independent voters. It's good for getting some of the actual liberals back on board, like the burnouts or something. Yeah, that could work. You get Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders up there to speak a few times, and they can get some of them back on board. But at the same time, when you do that, it pisses off sort of the business Democrats, keeps the mass exodus of them going to Trump in operation as well. When you don't have enough of the far left, and this is why Hillary's fucked, if you don't have enough of the far left, then all the burnouts will go and vote for Jill Stein or Gary Johnson. So you got a big fucking problem for the Democrats right now. They've got a schism really within their party. If you think the Republicans are disunited, it's the Democrats that are truly disunited. Take a look at their friggin' party. You've got some people that can't support Hillary or anyone associated with her because she's seen as a right-wing corporate shill. And then you've got the business Democrats that can't deal with the fact that the Democratic Party is entertaining a socialist and a bunch of progressives. So there's no way to rectify the situation, no matter what Hillary does. She either pisses off the business centrists and the independents, or she pisses off the far left. Now, she's obviously making a play for the former more than the latter. She's trying to balance things out and throw a few bones to Bernie Sanders fans and sort of the Warren progressives and those people within the party. And it's not working. Because her record is too spotty. She was for the Iraq War. She stood in the way of gay marriage. She does take corporate cash. She does take bank cash. She's a sellout. And Bernie Sanders has gained that title from a large plurality of his fans as well. And despite what the sort of Democratic machine media online, the being liberals and salons and Jezebels may say, there's no unity within the Democratic Party. Most of those people, at the end of the day, I doubt will vote for Hillary Clinton. A lot of them are going to vote for third-party candidates. A smaller proportion for Trump. I think the smallest proportion might end up going to Hillary, depending on what decision she makes from here on through the debates. And here's the other thing. Well, there's two things that we got to think of politically right now. Number one, Gary Johnson in the RCP, not even a single poll, but in the aggregates at 8.5% and still climbing. Jill Stein's up towards 5% now. My goodness, you've got a significant proportion of the electorate that refuses to support either of the mainstream candidates. I don't see that changing. In fact, I see the opposite happening. I see both Johnson and Stein pulling in probably 2 or 3 extra points on top of what they have now, to the point at which the Libertarian Party will probably increase its vote share by 600%. That would be a modest estimate. The Green Party will have increased it several thousand%, since it was barely even counted in some states the last time around. The Libertarian Party was averaging like 2, maybe 3% in most states the last time around, which is better than it had been historically. That's nowhere near the support they have now. I don't care that Gary Johnson is mediocre. Still a better candidate than Trump or Clinton. I like Trump better than Clinton, and like I said to people, If you're in a state that's up for grabs, you should vote tactically. If you're not, you should be voting for Gary Johnson. I'm in a far blue state. If you're in a state that is dedicated to one party or the other, there's no reason for you to bother voting for a mainstream candidate because it's a foregone conclusion who will win. There's nothing that we can do to change enough minds to swing any of these states right now in this election cycle. We don't quite have enough support for that yet. Next election cycle, by the way, I expect we will. The Libertarian Party is in a position where if it gets high enough this time around, gets into the debates in the next cycle, or even potentially this cycle, it will probably win the next election. You'll see the death of the two-party system at that point, and good riddance to it. And like I said, the Green Party's not doing too badly either. They've got more support now. The Green Party is kind of like a joke or something like that, or was considered one. And yet their vote share right now under Jill Stein is higher than the Libertarian vote share was the last time around, and that had already increased, I think, like 50% over the prior period. So the third party's rise is continuing. It's going to get larger. That's going to keep going. The other bit of news is Trump is now dead even with Hillary in the last round of polling. You got 2 polls showing Trump ahead by a point, 2 polls showing Clinton ahead by a point or 2 points. That is a statistical tie. I did not expect that to happen before the debates. My expectation was Trump would suffer a 3 or 4 point deficit until the first debate. He would then draw about even, be slightly behind. Second debate comes, he'd pull slightly ahead. Third debate would come, he would demoralize the Clinton camp. And at that point, he'd be 3 or 4 points ahead nationally, and he would go on to win the election. But if he's actually statistically tied, especially considering the sort of turmoil surrounding the Republican convention right now, and the fact that the Democrats are at least trying to unite their message, if he's drawn even, then it's basically over for Hillary. I hate to tell her fans, but I don't think there's a great big chance that she's going to be your next president. I know you want a female president. You consider it important that she has a vagina. Most people don't. Most people don't give a fuck. They want somebody qualified. She is quite clearly not. In fact, because she's so dishonest, and everyone knows she's so dishonest, there's nothing she can promise you that you can trust, so you don't even know what her positions are. That's going to be her main problem. The other problem is the Green Party has absorbed so many burnouts now, probably many hundreds of thousands of them, or maybe a few million, that a lot of people are saying, yeah, we want a female president, Jill Stein, not Hillary Clinton, because Hillary is just basically Mitt Romney with a vagina and a D after her name. And that's true. I mean, I don't disagree with that sentiment. I don't think that the right thing to do is to vote for Stein either because she's female. I know she's got Aragorn on board. That's probably the biggest endorsement she'll get all cycle. I go for Gary Johnson. He's far ahead of where the Green Party is. The Libertarians are several times ahead of the Green Party, more viable, more pragmatic. Yes, he's a mediocre libertarian. I fully understand that fact. I don't care. I really don't care. We've got a few major pressing issues right now that we need to focus on. We need to reduce government intervention. We need to slash taxes and do away with some of these bureaus. We do need to end the drug war. And if a libertarian got elected and did just that, they'd be remembered as being as great as Washington himself, because things in this country would fundamentally change on such a level and improve so much. The economy would be so much better, there'd be so much less crime and stress on the population that it would be considered a golden age. It would be like the boom times of the Roaring 20s minus, hopefully, the depression thereafter. So, yeah, I'm going to support the libertarians. I don't have a problem with Trump. His own speaking has been fine. It's just the Republicans are dragging some zany individuals up on stage with very, very strange views, like Ben Carson. I think that it's a mistake to even give him a speaking position there. Meanwhile, the Democrats suffer from the problem of not having enough zaniness. They've got a bunch of boring corporate leftists, like Pelosi, and then they've got a bunch of real wackadoodles who piss off those same centrists within their own party every time they open their mouths. Whereas the Republicans, they've unified. Trump's the nominee. You can see it now. The Never Trump people failed, as everybody knew that they would. The Cruzites are on board with Trump now. The evangelicals are on board. He doesn't need to worry about the so-called minority vote. I don't think that it's going to be a problem, and I expect that he'll win the election. But the Republican convention has been chaotic, about as chaotic as I expected, not nearly as chaotic as others were predicting. If you looked at being liberal in the days leading up to it, they expected there to be a mass shooting incident and something just short of genocide because people were exercising their Second Amendment rights there. That was never going to happen, and if it did, it would be the result of an agent provocateur from the leftists, probably. So far, the biggest chaos you've had is Alex Jones, who kind of deserves it, getting punched in the face a couple times. No, I shouldn't say that. I mean, he is an interesting, entertaining individual, but he is a corporate shill. So that's basically my feeling on that. He can rant about communism all he wants. If he thought he could make money off communism, he'd be a communist. So, be that as it may. But yeah, Trump is now dead even in polling. Never expected that to happen. That's one thing. That and Wisconsin have been the two things I've been most wrong on this election cycle. But that shouldn't worry anybody if they support Trump, because that actually means that I vastly underestimated his capabilities in the early general election, when I expected that it would be his speaking skills primarily that would even things up and get him ahead. It looks like the unification of the Republican Party and the fact that Hillary is being so heavily siphoned by third parties. Gary Johnson and Jill Stein. Jill Stein is only getting would-be Democratic voters in her camp. Those are Democrats that are too far left for Hillary. They're not going to abandon her. Gary Johnson's taking a lot of the corporate Democrats as well, and a very slim proportion of Republicans, sort of the Ron Paul crowd, but only a few of them. Both third parties, having grown, are stealing primarily Hillary Clinton's support. And I believe they will continue to do so. There's a reason why Gary Johnson has aimed his focus a little bit further to the left. There's a reason for that. He knows who has less solid support. He knows Hillary's vulnerable. When he says something that could be taken as slightly progressive, he's doing that as part of his campaign strategy to get more support for the Libertarian Party. And Godspeed to him for doing that, because it needs to be done. The Libertarians cannot just be an idealist party. They have to focus pragmatically on trying to actually get to the threshold to put their message out there. Otherwise, it doesn't fucking matter. Doesn't matter what your ideals are if they don't take root. You have to plant the seed first, then you have to water it, and then you can see what grows. When people see what the Libertarian Party stands for, it will become the main party of the United States. That is my prediction. That's about all. Peace out.